Hey everybody, welcome back to 40k Frontiers, episode 3, where we're discovering new metas and new grounds. With us today, we've got Tausi from New Zealand,
Hey, hey.
and then we've got Ben Way from Maitland, New South Wales.
Hey, hey.
Unfortunately, our beloved US correspondent Alex couldn't make it with us today, but also we got myself, so Stan Lemon, so from Canberra. Today we've got a bit of an interesting show, so we've got a chat with later in the show with Su Hun of 40k Korea, and then we're going to talk about the AUS Masters event that's happening this weekend in Maitland, New South Wales, which Benway is kind enough to TO, and we have 16 of Australia's top players attending and in a invitational singles event. Before we get bogged into the details, I guess we'll go around the ground and see what everyone else is up to. So, Taus, what's been happening with you in New Zealand?
Me personally, I haven't been doing heaps. Like we have events near me about once a month, month and a half-ish, and so I went up for teams. That was about the same weekend as a local event. So haven't had things locally. I played 2 games one Thursday because I went to the club and had a game, and then we made bad decisions. They went real well. Hey Sam. Um,
Yes.
Yeah, hey, you wanted to play bikes, so all 12 of those bikes ran at your clowns and clowned them. uh that's most of what I've been up to locally though. There's in New Zealand there was Over the Top in Hamilton, which is probably worth touching on at some point. Um and I'm vaguely planning to what I'm going to do in some of the upcoming events. We've got a bit of a funny thing coming up, which is Hell Games, 666 points, 66-minute rounds in a day. um, I think there's probably some more sixes in there somewhere. Uh, and so I think I'm working out a trade deal where I'm gonna maybe borrow a mate's tower to do shenanigans. In return, we're meant to be teaming up for the next event. Um, that's about it with me. So nothing super serious or immediate.
I've just been finalizing some players packs. I've been my head deep in the computer for a lot of it. Got finalized the ATC one up. So that's the Australian Team Championships. That's got finalized this morning, which is great. I've been hobbying some Gene Stealer Cult as still, just because that's what I'm planning to run to the new Tyrannid book comes out. Because I can't now I've seen that book. It's really hard to go back to the old stuff, and I don't play Crusher, so um, I don't really want to run the forces, not in this meta anyway. But yeah,
I,
I'm lucky enough to be going to like a 30-person GT next week, so I'm pretty stoked about that. I
Ben,
don't expect it going. Just in Sydney, just so like north, kind of west, really northwest Sydney. So it's really quite close to me. So it's like not even 2 hour drive, they reckon, on Google Maps. So I'm pretty happy about that. But yeah, I won't. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. I also have been. We've had a lot of rain where I am, which is like near Newcastle, New South Wales. Waiting for the rain and the humidity to die down a bit because I've got to do a bit of terrain love before we go to the event because of the humidity. So I've got to give that a bit of a wipe down and stuff like that. So I'm kind of I don't want to do it now. Well, I've got a bit more time because if it happens again, I've got to do it again. So I might just be that won't be my Friday morning spent doing that. So fun times as a TO, I guess. So yeah, it's
so
been good. I'm looking forward to playing some more 40k in the next few months, and that kind of all starts next week. So I'm really it's pretty exciting times for me. So I'm really happy.
Ben, are you not excited to have like the last hurrah with a dozen hive guard actually shooting out a line of sight?
So
You don't wanna you don't wanna be a bad
I,
person before the new book ruins
It's
that.
so we'll touch upon it later about my kind of trials and tribulations of this list because I have like two directions of thought, and that is definitely one of those things. But when we get a bit deeper, and well, we can kind of start talking about that now, really, I guess, can't we? So I guess like kind of for next, yeah. So for next week at this 30 player GT, there's obviously there's Chris Wright and stuff going. So one of the Australia's best players. We'll touch upon and speak about him again later. I'd say in for about Masters, but we are. I was hoping to maybe bring Mono GSC because I haven't played too much Mono GSC, but I'd like to get stuck into it, and I'm thinking about maybe memeing 29 aberrants, because I think like where the meta is kind of like where I am. It's pretty up to date, they're pretty up to speed locally. And I feel like if I take forces, I don't think forces goes very well into any of those the real top ones, in my opinion. I don't play Crusher, so I won't be taking that. So I'm thinking about why not just going taking 29 aberrants, bladed cog, give them a 5-up invul, 5-up feel no pain, and just run them forward. And have a bit of fun, have a bit of fun with it. Because I think taking things like dev gaunts and stuff, I just don't really feel like they have much lifespan, on the tables these days. Not with like the amount, like Tau go first, you have no dev gaunts left. You have to reserve them both, and that doesn't feel great either. So I'm kind of like, I'm just thinking, why don't I just take 30 aberrants and just be that guy for that weekend. So, and I like that idea. So
Dev Gaunts don't have much of a lifespan with the new book either.
no, that's true. They what talk about a downgrade. It was such a downgrade, wasn't it? Like this is for 3 years of punishment, strength 3.
No. You pay points to upgrade them from the flesh borers. Remember, you got to pay like a point per model to lose 2 strength.
I know.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. And they're pretty expensive anyway. They're not cheap. These days. So, but yeah. So like it's hard. I thought I'd just play some mono GC until the new Tyranid book comes out. To be honest, every Monday seems to be a disappointment at the moment. When you say, Sam, when you wake up in the Monday morning, because the GW previews usually happen pretty late on a Sunday night for us. So like we wake up for Monday morning to the news of new arrivals or announcements and stuff like that. But we've been waiting 3 weeks for the announcement for the new Tyranid Codex. So it's got to be next Monday, right? Surely.
I hope so. I'm just waiting. We're just waiting. And the hardest thing is, obviously, we'll sort of touch on a bit later. It's like we got ATC coming up, so the ANZ Team Champs. And like the rules cut off, we pushed it back. And so it's literally the book will release, and then like the rules cut off is literally that day if Tunids get pre-ordered this weekend or next weekend, wherever this show's released it soon. Basically, the Tyranid Codex needs to be officially announced here this weekend, and then we'll be okay. But sort of that sticking point, we don't know if it's going to be released, if it's not, and like, I mean, you just have to build almost like 4 or 5 different lists just to accommodate. And then obviously, like, if Levy lives, can we do that? If Crusher lives, can we do that? If the new Codex lives, it's like, crazy.
Come on. So yeah, 17th is the cutoff for ATC. So it got moved from the 15th, which is the Friday, to the 17th for that, because obviously ATC is treated as like, your major prep before going to WTC for the Australian team. All those players are obviously in attendance for AC, and they want to be able to know if they can use that. So it's always nice giving that 2 days of leniency. But that does mean if it's the 17th that if it's not next Monday, it's not happening. So that's the only thing. So, but it's well, at least we can definitely say that a lot of people have had plenty of time to practice Crusher by now, haven't they? So most lists are pretty refined by now, I imagine, most teams. So
I mean, if Inese Wilson can win a major with a Crush, I mean, surely anyone can then, right?
Yeah, that's Inese Wilson on Twitter, isn't it? As well.
Yeah.
So
I believe so. I mean, who
might be worth giving a bit of a plug to the network as well. I know Sam's good for a plug.
Yeah, sure. I mean, look, lead me straight into it. So, but if you guys want to get extra content, so obviously, Colin and the crew up in the Pacific Northwest just did a whole bunch of weekends RTT of single elimination, and they're going to have a couple of these battle reports. So there's like little 45-minute to 60-minute recap battle reports with great in-depth explanation of moves and explanations. They'll be having a couple of those shows behind the paywall on the YouTube. But also, if you want to join Discord, so patreon.com/best in tabletop. Join a massive community of like-minded people like ourselves. Maybe not the best, most like-minded people, but you got Inese Wilson, you got Anthony Vanella, you got John Lennon, and you got a bunch of other great 40k players who all just want to get better. And it's a great community for multiple things outside of 40k, where it's about health and fitness. And a bunch of guys are joining a health and fitness challenge, trying to lose some weight, which I know we can all understand and be part of. And then also just the adulting channel is also something great for personal mental health. It's a fantastic space to, vent or show frustration and just get real life good advice. So Patreon.com/best in tabletop for anyone that's interested. It's $10 a month, which is like 15 Australian for the Discord, and then it's the same for the YouTube, in which you can get extra content, such as also episode 2 and Chasing the Narrative, where they ask like further questions, and it's hosted by Colin Sherman.
Yeah, and I think that actually the first bat rep, or should I say bit rep, for the weekends, like RTT, if you like, is actually Colin did say it was going to be out Wednesday. So that I'm assuming that's Wednesday American time. So the first one he's hoping to bring out then, so that's pretty exciting. So
because they're
so
posting all the like first round matchup, because it's single elim, right? So they're posting like the 4 first round matchups just for everyone, and then the juicy bits are hidden away.
Yeah, that's right. I think he said it was going to be Hank and Zach, and that's Craftworld, Eldar, and Tau. And apparently it's a pretty tight one. So that sounds pretty exciting.
Yeah, very, very excited to watch all that and catch up to speed with it. So
what about you, Sam? You're going to an event soon, and what's your next couple of months looking like, and kind of whereabouts are they, and what's involved in them?
Yeah, so like this past month and like the next month or two has been pretty busy to say the least. So this weekend, so we got the Australian Masters, which I'll touch on a bit later, but obviously it's a invitational event, and preparing for that. So I'm taking the dreaded Menace in the Harlequins. So sort of waking up this sort of week, I was like, oh no, I was sort of pre-bandwagon. It's like, oh, I was always going to play Craftworld Elder / Harlequins in whatever capacity for ATC and I guess this AUS Masters event. And so I was like, oh, look, cool. I've made my Harlequins. I've got these well painted. I'm feeling good, enjoying them. This is really fun. Like, it feels like a tricksy, fun army. And then that sort of the hate has just flowing in, and just there's nothing but bad things to say. I'm like, oh, I'm the menace in the table.
Mr. Bond, I see you too have airbrushed 9 Void Weavers this weekend.
Yes, I mean, that is true. Fair. So, look, I mean, I've felt the hate before when I was playing Thick City, and then now I play Kink City, as the 40k Fight Club likes to know it as. So, I'll just keep it on go. Keep it on going. I mean, look, I'm not an absolute moron. I'm not running 9 Void Weavers. Only running 6, okay? Only running 6, everybody. So you can keep the hatred down a little bit.
The hatred fuels you.
I think you might be a bit of a moron for not running max 9.
Maybe,
right?
maybe. Right, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Oh boy!
When I'm holding that first place trophy, we'll see who real feels like the loser or the.
Oh, look!
There we go. Look. So anyone watching on stream, Benny Way just held up the AUS Masters trophy, which looks very impressive.
I'm gonna have to give it a little shine up. As soon as it got delivered, I was like this, because I'll never be lifting one of those. So I just thought I'd, pseudo feel it,
Yeah. How many beers? So how many beers and alcoholic beverages are going to be drunk out of that cup?
I don't know, but you could solidly fit two schooners in there. So a schooner is a measurement of beer in certain states in Australia, just for the foreign listeners. And what are they, 325 mils? 375? Yeah, about that. So,
like,
yeah.
2/3 the size of a pint, like, right?
Yeah, 355, I think it is. So it's like, 700 mils. You
That's
can fit.
just like
I don't know what.
Like your typical can.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. So, well, I don't drink, so I've got no. I lose.
How many shoes worth of alcohol can fit in there, though? That's the real.
A couple of size 11s, I reckon. A couple of size 11s.
Yeah, and for our American listeners who only use it in freedom units and imperial units, I think it's like 36 ounces is roughly a schooner, maybe.
Freedom units.
Those were US
That's
shoes.
Nice. I like that.
Ben, those are size 11 US, right? You had the US covered.
Brilliant.
That's fair. There we go. So, yeah.
So 40k, right?
Yeah, so 40k, yeah. So,
what about you, Alex?
Me, we covered me. Not much happened. I had shenanigans with Sam.
So but have you got any events lined up apart from your local one later? Have you got any more bigger events for the year?
Not that I'm Not that I'm planning to go to, but like I'm not necessarily good at planning. I've been told by all the guys in Auckland that we after coming up for teams that we should make sure we come along again. Which yeah, it was a good time. We should do that. Um Otherwise not anything specific. Yeah, sadly the New Zealand contingent aren't coming to the AUS New Zealand Masters, so don't have that to look forward to. But yeah.
Yeah, it's a real shame. I wish we could see you there, and then yeah, it sucks. It is what it is, but hopefully next year, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
fingers crossed. Touch wood.
Hopefully, we're just at the back end of all that kind of stuff now, you know,
Yes.
so we can lead off into a glorious future.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
So
let's honorable mention what US Alex has been up to, because in the notes he's
Oh, of
got
course.
finishing up the Custodies. So he's trying to get those guys nerfed. And is relocating like a mad lad. Did he have any other notes that we can pass on? Because
yeah,
we'll
and
hear from Alex in the interview, right, Sam? Like you
yeah. So myself and Alex, US Alex, the better Alex, recorded the interview earlier on. So you'll get to hear his salty tones and beautiful voice again. So but also know like in his actual hometown, so he's sort of currently traveling for work. They're opening up a new game store. So just of course, just before he decides to leave, well, decides, I mean, has to leave. A new game store opens up. So I know I was very excited for that. And then he's got a couple of US events. I know. So he's got the June, I think the Seattle GW event, or sorry, Tacoma, Washington. Apologies. I think he's trying to go to that, and there's a couple other GTs he's planning to travel to. So, yeah, obviously from where he is, it's a definitely a flight in a bit. So, long distances to travel, but I know he's excited for that, and so yeah. And then yeah, I touched on myself. So I got AUS Masters this weekend, and then a month or so we got the ANZ Team Champs, so which we're sort of preparing for in the final stages for. All the logistics are prepared for, which is great. But boy, herding a bunch of I don't know 20-year-old, 30-year-old men trying to get stuff organized is difficult. I feel no pain for sporting clubs and stuff like that in ordering logistics. I mean, we got there now, like accommodation, travel there and back, dice, t-shirts and stuff are organized and mostly paid for, which is good. So it's just following up and chasing people. It's a lot of management skills, that's for sure. I guess good thing that Innes does talk about though is you used to dictate how things go to an extent. So pick out the shirts and the singlets and then say, right, this is it, or the dice, like this is it. It's nice, but man, it's hard herding cats, and obviously it's not cheap ordering everything yourself and like trying to follow up people with payment and stuff like that. So yeah,
surely you've got this, Sam. Just like make a bunch of spreadsheets. This is right up your alley, right?
sadly, the Google Sheets doesn't pay for accommodation as much as I'd love to. That's the
I've
catch
got
though,
so much terrain to do for it. Like I've got a large bulk of it done. All the kind of harder stuff is done. But I've got a lot of crates to make. Well, I say Dale and I have a lot of crates to make. It's the guys helping me run it from down on 40k. So, but he's actually shifting a lot of. He's giving me a lot of the crates to build over here. They're coming in the next couple of days. We've already got like a majority of it. Like I'd say that we're already at like 75%, 80% completion from the natural how much we've got. But we've just got all the because of the WTC maps, we've just got a couple of extra things we need to add to each table to certain tables, and that's a lot. There's a lot of, as you know, there's a lot of dents on those tables, so we've really got to push a lot of that out. So yeah, I if you get bored of herding cats, mate, you can come up and give me a hand spraying some terrain. So
yeah, a small 5-hour drive, right? Just to
yeah,
cut out
yeah,
some
that's all
different
right. I'll
terrain.
send some down your way, mate. I'll get them couriered down for you.
Yeah, there'll just be sadly in the car on the way back home, just sadly some random WTC maps. So just it'll fit in the back of the car. It's like, oh, how the hell is this getting here?
Loads of rattle cans in there.
Too easy. Yeah, happy to. We'll work it out afterwards. Yeah, cool. So I think from here, guys. So we recorded an interview earlier on with Su Hun. So got 40k career. So he's one of the like big TOs and proponents of the South Korean community there. And so myself and Alex, US Alex, record an interview, which will hand over to you guys.
So, this is going to be our second interview that we've done. First, that I'll be leading, and I'll be interviewing Su Hun of 40K Korea and Korea WTC fame. And full disclosure, the reason I'm recording this is after the first episode of our show was recorded, he reached out to every Alex in the 40K Korea Kako chat to try and figure out who this interloper was making content without their consent. So we wanted to invite him on. I'll be in his meta here at the time of recording in 2 months. So it's getting really down to the wire. And what's better to concentrate on in a move than what your 40K opponents are going to be in next for the next 2 to 3 years. So, uh, Suhun, I'd like to have you introduce yourself to the show. If you want to go over your 40K history, tell us about yourself a little bit, and then we'll get started.
All right. Thank you, Alex and Sam, for hosting me. That's Thank you, very gracious of you for doing that. Yeah, just a little bit about myself. I've been playing 40K for about six years now, and I've always loved 40K ever since I was young. And whenever I walked into the tabletop gaming store, I would see like just fantasy models and 40K models there, and I was just mesmerized by those. But obviously, when you look at the price tag, and your parents like, oh, no, 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 the best thing you can get is Pokemon cards or Yu-Gi-Oh cards or something, right? So, anyways, I always loved it, and of course, I played Total War and this all the video games that would come out with the 40K universe. But I just never got into the miniature tabletop version of it. But when I, you know, grew up and got a job and actually got some money, and I can actually spend some money without anyone, talking, hounding over me in the back. Yeah, then it was just perfect timing. I just didn't really. It was always in the back of my mind, but I never was actively like looking to like buy and build miniatures and play on tabletop. So when I moved to China for international teaching job there, I was really into video games. But you may or may not know is that the internet connection is absolutely terrible from China to anywhere other parts of the world. So I was playing really competitively, and that didn't work because I would get like 900 pings or something. So thankfully, I had a coworker at my school, and he introduced me to War Machine and Horde tabletop gaming. And man, that game is hard. But it got me into the tabletop gaming and how to measure and how the activation works and the combos. And it was and then he wanted to Jack. Shout out to him, and he wanted to start a Warhammer 40K club for students there, which was really amazing opportunity. So we're like, yeah, let's start it. And Kill Team was kind of coming out during that time. So like, yes, let's start with the Kill Team and let's see where it goes. And it was extremely popular with the students over there. They like to build models and paint the models, and it's kind of spiraled out of control from there. Where I got into it, and I was introduced to um just so many different type of people through this hobby. And I say it again and again, like the 40K is not really about gaming for me. It's all about like making that human connection. And without 40K, I would not have met like this so many different personalities and amazing type of people that I've never met, and like really awesome friends. So that's really kind of like why I really enjoy Warhammer, and that I really encourage people to join this hobby, because maybe some people with really awesome job and really interesting different lifestyle, um, and then connect with them, and you're like, whoa, that I never knew that that person existed, and then you make professional connections that way. So it's like not just even like your hobby, but it's like also like goes into your personal life as well and your professional life as well. So that's what I really love about this hobby, to be honest with you. So anyway, so going back to the China thing, so it started to build from there, and I start to get very competitive because by nature I also really like to compete. So um, there are some players from Shenzhen, Guangzhou, and we would do like city battles with each other, so city versus city. So we were kind of doing getting very competitive in that respect, and they were actually my second year of China, they were trying to make China competitive really big and like really official, and it was head speared by uh, let me just take a look here. Tom Gilbert. He is another international school teacher when he was in China, and he decided to create this amazing like grand tournament kind of style with like mission packs and like the people, expats and local players from all over China would attend this event, and yeah, they would just have an awesome time, just rolling dice with lots of really awesome prizes and just having lots of fun. So I was really inspired by him actually, and I even offered like my school to host for another grand tournament in Guangzhou, where I was living in. And unfortunately, by the time we were supposed to run the event, of course, the Corona came in. Corona came knocking in, and that event just got canceled. And due to that was gonna be like my last hurrah to leave to China because I had gotten contract in Korea. Yeah, so unfortunately, it didn't happen in China because of coronavirus. So anyway, so I took all my passion and I'm bringing it over to Korea, and I was surprised that there were no like expat community, like a hub of expats or a competitive community that was in Korea. So I reached out on Facebook, like as best as I can, like who's here, plays 40K, and let's get together, let's make something. So it started out with only three of us. The three little groups that we would just play each other. So Bill and Justin would just play, and we would keep finding more and more new people like every day. So it started to grow and grow and grow, and we're for the English group chat, there are about 120 members right now. And then these are not like all competitive. These are from all different spectrums. So we got like very very newbie and all the way to like ultra hardcore. So we got all different spectrum there. Yeah, but I'm really glad, and I got to meet lots of amazing people, as I said before. That we got French chef, we got another design teacher that I connected with really well, and then we got people from Justin. He's like working at Samsung Biologics, so like lots of really amazing like from many different walks of life. Yeah, that just I never thought I would meet. So, yeah,
The foot,
that's
yeah,
kind of
the 40K community is weird, right? Like you get people from all walks of life that love and enjoy this hobby. And it just sounds like teachers are the new meta in South the Pacific Asia. Is obviously yourself, and then the mate you met in China, obviously establishing this community. So international teaching, that's the new meta and the new hotness for establishment.
And I
So
think it helps as well to acquire venue as well, because school by itself, it can host lots of different people, and I mean, since if you're connected to the school, you can talk to the administration and say, "Hey, I'm hosting an event. Can we use the cafeteria or can we use the gym?" And it works out. So yeah.
and
Well,
so
it's oh,
yeah,
go ahead, Sam.
yeah, sorry. And so you talk about the school. So is this like so obviously American logic. So is this like a primary school, middle school, high school, like a university, college? Is it like sort of what sort of age bracket are we looking at?
For my school, it's all from it starts from grade kindergarten all the way to grade 12. So until they finish. Yeah.
Yeah, wow. Okay. So is it like normally like highest, like, oh, I guess older demographic, like 14 to 8, 17, 18-year olds, which is sort of part of that Warhammer club, or is it you get people from all walks of life and ages?
So the club that I'm running, it's pretty small, and I'm the middle school teacher. So the club that I cater to are the middle school students. So we're looking at 12, 13, 14, that demographic. I do want to reach out to the upper school, which is high school. But it's just a schedule thing, so it just doesn't work out. Yeah.
Well, no, that's fantastic, and it's great to see like a community develop like that. And obviously, a hundred. I mean, obviously in the English chat alone, 100 from 3 people to 120 plus. That's insane, and credit to you and your team for like growing the community. That's amazing to hear and see.
Yeah, I'm really happy that I'm able to, connect people from. Yeah, that's what it is, right? Human connection. I think I'm just gonna say it again, but 40K, yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
No, that's I liked listening to your story there, especially with how important human connections are with 40K, and like that's how you network. This acronym is going to mean like something to 3 people. At my first big event, which was an Adepticon, I met a major who was with DIA, and he was very helpful in a lot of the stuff that I've tried to go do since. So that was a good time. So we can for the for those of you watching the video, you can see a impressive collection of models behind Su Hun there, and I was hoping you could walk us through what you're currently playing.
So I'm currently playing Gene Cults at the moment, and they are really fun, really tricksy army. Uh, Really interesting. So I'm running mostly melee based Gene Cults. So I'm mostly running acolytes and mostly running metamorphs, and sprinkle a little bit of rock grinders here and there, but it's mostly yeah, I'm just trying to get into your face as fast as possible and cripple your army before you can just totally decimate me, because I cannot take your punches back. Yeah, last night I was playing against Necrons and it was a bloodbath. I will wipe out entire block of warriors, and then they will wipe out my entire block of acolytes. So we'll just go back and forth, back and forth. It was pretty insane. And it was a lot of fun. And the Silent King killed my the Patriarch at the very last turn. And then in turn, my acolytes came in with the rock saws and just ripped him to shreds. So it was like back and forth, back and forth. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Definitely a lot of fun. Um, yeah.
Oh, that's good, and GSC is a fun army. You can do a lot with that. I think we have other Tyranid players and GSC players who will be happy to hear that. So, uh, did the intro there. We'll dive into the broader meta questions, and you covered a lot of them in the intro. So thank you. We've got a lot here, and you powered through quite a few of them. So you said it was about 120 total players in the English chat. How many of those play consistently, or is it all pretty consistent?
I would say probably consistently, probably like every week or every 2 weeks. I will probably say um 15 to 20, right? I think that would be pretty good number. And those are really the competitive types, right? It's not um and for in our community, and we have separate chat as well for the Korean chat, which means they don't really communicate in English, but they communicate in Korean, which are the local players. And local players, there are definitely more local players than expats for sure. In their group, I think they got like over 170 Korean local members, and I was surprised to find that a lot of them don't actually want to play competitively, if that makes sense. They enjoy it for more of a narrative, more casual, kind of that setting. So a lot of them actually play Crusade, from what I can tell. And of course, I can't really gauge how many of them are like really competitive, because um, due to coronavirus, there's just so many restrictions, and it's hard to get the people involved, if that makes sense. So I want to make sure that I can't really give you a proper number, if that makes sense. 'Cause right now it's just a different time. And right now the restrictions are slowly opening up. So maybe I'll have a more accurate number, maybe in about 6 months or so. But right now it's just kind of low due to people just being afraid or paranoid about getting coronavirus, or just restrictions wise. Yeah. So that this coronavirus really you know it really sucked for this hobby for sure. Yeah.
Oh yeah, sucks for a lot of things, especially because 40K has to it's really meant to be played in person. So if you can't do that, then it stifles the growth. But that's let me see. I'm not really a math guy, but you said 120 in the English chat and 170 in the Korean. So we're pretty close to 300 people uh,
Yep.
playing in Korea. Is that mostly centered around Seoul, or is that spread out all over the country?
Yeah, there are multiple. So they have kind of like dungeon clubs. So where they have they set up the tables there, and they regularly meet. So they have like a club fee a lot of the time. So oh, there we go. There's a one picture there. So that's old dice right there. So that's where Seoul people a lot of. So they usually have about like 7 to 10 tables there, and they play from Age of Sigmar, Infinity, like whole bunch of different type of games there. Um, and yeah, their tables are really awesome, and it's a lot of fun to meet different people. And a lot of them are playing Crusade in these ones. And these ones actually are Pyeongtaek. This one is in Demetrius's house. He's one of our Pyeongtaek members, and one of our community lead as well. And loves to host a tournament at his house, and his house is big enough that he can fit like 6 tables, so we can like have 12 people little tournament. So it's a lot of fun going to his place. He's very awesome. He's very chill, and really awesome host as well. And yeah, and then we got a couple other places. We have Benny's house. So his apartment's house is about 4 tables. My house also houses 4 tables. I'm in Songdo, which is outside of Seoul. It's just a little bit south of Seoul. So if anyone wants to come to my house, I'm always down for hosting games and playing. And let's see, there's I think player base in Busan, but there's not. I don't think there's any expats that I know of that plays like consistently there. So Busan is a city kind of like Miami of Korea. It's like really awesome, beautiful city right by the beach, and yeah. But far as I know, there's mostly Korean players there as well. But yeah, there's little clubs all around Korea. You just have to find them. They're there. Yeah.
Yeah, the Demetrius, the guy you talked about, to echo that, when I posted in the chat originally saying, "Hey, I'm moving to Korea here," and this was like in January, he reached out immediately and was like, "Where are you moving to? When are you getting there? Do you have any questions about the local area at all?" So he's definitely pretty cool. So you mentioned in there you've got, and this is just so we clear this one up, you've got the English speaking group and the Korean speaking group. Do they ever mix, or is that pretty separate? There's kind of a language barrier between those two.
No, they definitely mix.
Okay.
In the English chat, there are a lot of Korean guys there as well in the chat. The local players. So it doesn't mean that we try to like segregate. That's not the point of 40K, anyways. Obviously, we do have a bit of a language barrier, and I think it's up to both the expats and locals to kind of just get over that little barrier of the language. And I know that speaking Korean or speaking English can be a bit it can be scary. For some people it can be scary, and maybe necessarily you don't maybe want to put the effort in because you just want to have enjoy your time. And so a lot of factors come into like when people play, but I think for the most part, I think people are very nice and friendly, and they do want to play. Yeah, it's just that I can't really give you the full answer again because I want to make sure that once coronavirus is over, we can engage more. But we have had lots of Korean local members come and play, so that's not it wasn't an issue.
Okay, cool. That's really good to hear. And that was a big question I had going into this. If there was that language barrier. But that's good there. So um, we talked about it a little before the show, so we'll hit on this one now. How do y'all get your stuff, especially with global shipping issues? Like, where is there like a big local store that people go to? Do people order online? Is it a lot of scratch built stuff? Where are people sourcing their models?
Right. So we don't officially have a GW store in Korea. Kind of wish we did, but we don't. So there is actually It is called Orktown, and it's kind of like I guess a third party seller. In this store sells 40K, Age of Sigmar, and other like World War II game systems and stuff. And we usually get it through them. And if the new codec comes out, you better be on their website, like refreshing the page, because otherwise it's just gonna get sold out. And actually, a lot of the models, or at least the competitive models, they get sold out so fast that a lot of the time you just can't get those models. You can't, so you can. You just gotta be on top of it Saturday morning. You just gotta wake up and refresh, and then try to get those items that you want to procure. Yeah, if you can't get them, I mean, I've heard that some people like to make chats, and then they go and buy from other third party websites that will ship to Korea. But in Korea, there's also like a import tax and like duty fee and stuff like that. So there's a bit of a burden as well. And then other stuff. There's and we also have a secondhand chat or marketplace that sell models all the time. So there's many different ways of getting it. um, yeah. So I guess yeah. Long story short, you can get a lot of stuff. It's just I guess if you want to be really competitive and be up to date, it will be hard for you to buy things. Yeah.
Okay, and that's interesting, and that's really something that would shape a meta. If you have availability issues, that generally warps what you're able to play. Sam, it looks like you were trying to say something there.
Oh yeah, so obviously, generally in the I guess Pacific South Asia region, so we normally see that the prices of GW stuff is super ridiculous. Like, so myself and Alex, or Tao, sorry, have talked about like Australia, and New Zealand. It's almost like double the price in what it is in Great Britain and US. Is it the same scene in Korea? Like that GW prices are, I guess, expensive in comparison?
Actually, it's pretty decent. I would say it's not bad at all. I would say even it's actually cheaper than GW price. So they would get that friendly gaming store a little bit of discount. And from what I can tell, when you buy from Orktown, you actually accumulate points, and then you can redeem those points to buy more stuff. So yeah. So I will say the price point is pretty good if you buy from Worktown. There are other stores that in Korea that sells GW products, but they mark it up a little bit, so it's not as cheap. But yeah.
Shout out to Orktown, good on them. And then it sounds like fantastic. So obviously, just having the availability of models and getting at a decent price helps grow the community. And so that's fantastic to hear you have a good retailer in that sense. Just have to be refreshing that page day of or pre bandwagon, I guess.
You got to be on it. It's gonna get sold out, definitely. And we had a lot of time where we were hosting an event on Saturday, that Saturday, and people were playing and they would pause. Like, I mean, I at least for me, I would pause like in the middle of the game and refreshing the page to buy an item that I want. So, yeah, that brings up some memories. Yeah, definitely.
Well, okay, gotta have your priorities really, and if it's just a practice game, you can throw that away. We can we can run with that. Okay, so you mentioned playing in events. Let's move to that. So, what kind of games are played? Because you said there's kind of a competitive group, and then there's a group playing Crusade. So, are your events a little more narrative focused, or are they more tournament games, like GT, RTT level stuff?
Definitely, all the events that I'm running, they're definitely focused on competitive. I the brain my personality and my brain works is that I want things to be done by the rules and just clear set of guidelines, and things are run properly and functions. That's kind of how my brain works. So whenever I host an event, I will like things to run smoothly. So it doesn't mean like you're rolling some random table chart and things are happening on the battlefield that you don't foresee or something like that. I mean, it's really fun and fluffy. I really love that aspect as well. But when I'm running events, it will have yeah. We purely when we do run an event, it's a GT, grand tournament mission pack. Definitely, we play matched for sure.
Along
Awesome.
with that, along with that sort of guidelines and like being strict, do you sort of try and implement like in-house FAQs or anything like that, or do you like follow a set of FAQs or guidelines or rules?
Yes. So we so in our meta, we like to push the envelope, I guess, a little bit. So for example, um models that may pop up. So I guess something that so the last F so we do have a community FAQ definitely, and in our community member we have a Thunderhawk gunship, and a player brought it on, and because the Thunderhawk doesn't actually have a base, right? It's just as it's sold, it doesn't have a base. So the way it works gets really messed up because how high you put the Thunderhawk and how big the base of the custom base is, when it hovers over onto the obscuring terrain, like there's a lot of just unnecessary interactions. So so we just made a community ruling for some of those stuff. And for example, like Harridan or just any big creatures that may not fit in the deployment zone perfectly. So we just had to fact some of that stuff, and within reason, right? So that's kind of so we do have our own rules here and there, but we mostly follow the like LVO stuff. We are we do read the LVO and like what other people are doing in their tournaments. So we do take other big tournaments very seriously, and we take bits and inspirations from those type of tournaments, and we make our own ruling. Yeah.
Sounds good. And yeah, there's unfortunately we're starting to creep back to the point where you have to community fact stuff. So I just like that the spawning of some FAQs was off someone running a Thunderhawk, which I can say with certainty I have never seen one in person. I'm convinced they're not real, but somebody just
Well,
just
um,
walks in and drops one on the table, and there you go.
feel free to come to a meta and you'll see something like that. So yeah, you.
But don't worry, we're gonna be talking about the big stuff here in a second. Um, so you said you guys follow big events for how you do event stuff. How do you train? Do you follow one specific event style, or do you do different sets of terrain?
Yeah, so my original plan for the tournament that I would like to run for Korea, because that's kind of like my big, because remember the story from Guangzhou. I wanted to host a big tournament at my school, and then it just never happened. So I'm still like, I'm still wanting to big thing to happen. So I want to host a really big event in Korea for everyone, and I also want to invite anyone that's within Asia or anyone who really wants to participate, want come to Korea to play, right? So I want it to be a really good event, but I also want my event to be beautiful, because I'm also a visual arts teacher. I don't want a terrain that doesn't look that fun or thematic to play on. So but at the same time, I got touch with the WTC community as well, and I looked at the terrain, and it was very functional. It was laid out very well. They had lots of very functional terrains, definitely functional, right? And it was very mathematical, very much like a war machine, which I really loved. Um, and oh, by the way, just a sidetrack. If anyone wants to what a really hardcore gaming looks like, you need to try War Machine, and that there's a lot of skill set you learn you can take from War Machine into 40K, and that's gonna help you significantly. Because man, that game is punishing, like super punishing. And if some of those listeners who don't know, if there's a commander like an HQ unit, if they die, you lose the entire game. So it's like chess. When your king piece goes, just dies, you lose the entire game. So, anyways, going back to the terrain piece. Uh, yeah, so I was kind of like envisioning, yeah, WTC terrain, that's gonna be awesome. And then as we got to do more and more events, I decided to like, you know what, like I'm not really having fun like looking at these type of terrains. Like it's very blocky, and it doesn't like thematically, it just didn't feel like it belonged on the table. So we start to do more thematic kind of terrain pieces. So I think you can see some of them stuff here now. Um, We try to, yeah, so there's a WTC where we sprinkled with a little bit of other stuff on there, which are 3D printed as well. Maybe you can scroll through. So those are some mixed in with some GW terrain, some Yakumanda terrain, and try to make it into, yeah. So we want, basically, I want a variety. So I wanted to make sure that people were having fun, still engaged with the table they were using. Um, yes, that's basically how we came to it. So we want to, eventually at our tournament we're gonna have GW, US Open type of terrain. We're gonna have Vanguard Tactics type of terrain, and so that one, the Ruin one, is actually a mixture of, these are ones I actually designed myself, kind of remixed from, some of the files that I found online and kind of made my own custom design. So this is a mixture of WTC terrain and what I've thought would be really cool to play on. Um, so we'll have some really thematic kind of battle pieces. So yeah, Vanguard Tactics, GW, US Open, WTC, and some custom terrain as well. So it'll be like a whole bunch of variety, and so that you can really tailor your list for particular terrain maps or something. So you just have to be the best general you can be to win at our event. So yeah.
No, that's very cool. I know when I was flipping through the photos, yeah, the terrain. For those of you listening on the podcast format who might not be able to see this, the terrain is very impressive and it's varied. I don't think any two tables doubled up.
Yeah, so WTC is a also a topic that is in discussion with our community, because first of all, like I said, it's the coronavirus thing is an issue. I think the world are opening up a little bit more and more. But it's just that the ability of getting there and getting out of the country is still kind of an uncertainty at this point. And also, one thing that really sucks for us is that since we're so far away from WTC venues, it's really taxing on a lot of our community members, finance. It takes $2,000 minimum to attend these type of events with the flights and hotel booking and the event tickets and just everything. So it's just tough to kind of fund our team, if that makes sense, to get to go. We would love to attend, but I think in the short term, in the long term, we would love to attend in the near soon future. And the short term is that we want to focus on our own event first. So we want to make sure that we have a really good team. We want to make sure that we have solid group of people, and we have a really awesome community player base first, and then we would like to create our team, and then go there. I think there will be maybe a couple of us that may attend as mercenaries, but it's we I don't think we will have like a full team to go in the near future. Probably maybe in the next 5 years or so. I hope we can build enough fund and we can go. Our plan was actually to go to LVO because also that was a cheaper. The flight to Vegas is a lot cheaper, and the hotel that's a little bit more manageable than Europe. But but then again, the corona restriction happened for us, so we had to do 10-day quarantine once we come back, and that's not going to work for our workplace. So it just wasn't going to happen. So we had to cancel our LVO, sadly.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, the WTC being in Europe, I think you guys are as far away as you can be to try and get there. But no, but I'd seen in the group chat some people talking about trying to make LVO at some point. I will be, if I can make it while I'm in Korea, I'll definitely try and join you guys because LVO is one hell of a party to go
Mm.
play 40K in Vegas for 3 days. So talking about WTC and tournament stuff, talk about faction representation. I know in the rest of the world right now, what we're getting tournament coverage is the Tau, Eldar, and Custodes meta. Uh, and the rest of us are just casually participating. I say that I have a Custodes army sitting next to me on my paint tray, so I'm part of the problem. what factions are most popular there, and what's kind of less popular out there?
Definitely, I would say there's something that's very overly represented are the Death Guard here. We have pretty big Death Guard players here. As you can see, yeah, in the photos, the Plagueburst Crawler meta, actually the Demon Engine meta. So basically, they bring Epidemias to get the rerolls, hit rolls of 1, and give them toughness to 9. Something ridiculous like that. So that is really popular, and chaos, just chaos in general, is really popular. Just demons and chaos, just anything that is related to chaos is really popular here. Um, and right now we have Tau creeping up, definitely, but it's not like overly Tau, if that makes sense. It's maybe 1 or 2 players, and then Custodes maybe also three to 4 players. That's like, yeah, Custodes. So it's not, our meta is pretty different, pretty healthy. Yeah, I would say there's nothing that's too crazy. It's not like 80% of the army that shows up to our table is going to be a Custode or Tau. It's very varied. Yeah.
That's good to hear. And all I heard in that was our most popular army is Death Guards. So this is good for me. I'm seeing this as a win. You all have picked the best faction to play, having struggled through Death Guard for like 2 seasons. It's I'm
Yeah,
ready
so
to show up.
in our last tournament, which was 12 pillar per tournament, I think Death Guard we had 1, 2, 3. Yeah, out of 12, we have 3 Death Guard players. Just similar list, right? Epidemius, Plagueburst Crawler, and yeah, so it would sprinkle in with a little bit of Bellacore here and there. So yeah.
Right. So the year of chaos is fully in Korea. You all got the memo. The rest of us didn't. So this is just outstanding. Uh, so, is there a big emphasis on painting and hobbying stuff, or is it mostly just getting pieces on the board to play?
We obviously would love to see the hobbyists do the best they can with the paint jobs, but I know that I mean, myself included, I have my share pile of shame behind me and below me, and like in the boxes everywhere in the house. And I'm still like making more. But so we for painting wise, we just do a minimum, bare minimum, just prime them, just couple of layers, and just this. I think I guess the most important thing is distinguishing different units. Just to paint the rims of the bases, so you're not confusing yourself and you're not confusing the other players. So if you have like 2 massive blob of boys, make sure they're different color rims so that we can differentiate. Like, okay, so we got this group of squad here and these group of, okay, we can clearly distinguish 2 different units. That's what we ask for community members. But the painting wise, just very minimal. It's okay. Not everyone is a Picasso in our community. It's okay. It's okay to just yeah, put some barely painted models and you can play. They don't need to be like totally amazing. So
No, yeah, and I think that's something you do when you're building a community, right? Is it's as inclusive as you can be, and it's like, hey, if you made an attempt, tried to paint it, we're good. That's all we needed.
mhm. Yeah.
Mm, we are definitely jumping around my original question sheet, which is good because it just kind of flowed into different topics, which is way better than the other one.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Sorry to interject here. So obviously you talked
no,
about growing the community, like lowering the barrier for entry as much as possible. Would you have any advice for like growing scenes and communities of how they potentially can grow and entice people to join the hobby?
I think for sure there needs to be community leaders. I think that is a really important aspect. Some people so we have a team group of I think we have about 6 admins, and we do our best to really encourage different aspects of a hobby. For example, we have Remy. He started this initiative to really encourage painting, miniature painting within our community. So he's doing the like kind of painting competition, and we have you meant we talked about Nick a little bit before, maybe not in this, yeah, before the podcast started. We have Nick who started his own podcast and website, and he's like all over the place, and he's definitely a really huge part of our community. and he does his own thing. And we have Demetrius, as I mentioned before. He is also a community member that really helps out with anyone that's not. So he's actually located outside of Seoul, quite maybe an hour and a half away from Seoul, the downtown Seoul. So he also tries to engage with the Army community, there, U.S. Army community. So that's there. And we have Justin, who is running kind of like the league. So for league is for more so league doesn't even really, you don't even need to paint your models, and you can proxy and you can take as long as you want, and you just have to play 4 games within the course of, I think, 3 months. So that's kind of the bare minimum. So we do the league as well, so you can experiment and you can try different things without, like the pressure of like 3 hour chess clock. You just, so hey, that's what we do there. And then we have Anthony. He's kind of like our 3D printing guru. So yeah, that's kind of how it works in our community.
Sounds good. And you said the magic words, so it's the one we got to ask. How popular is 3D printing?
I would say so. I know for a fact that in the Korean community, the 3D printing and entire like batch of army is very much frowned upon. They don't really like it. They only like it if it's like for conversion purposes, making your models like extra, like extra special, or different, characterized in different ways. That's okay. But they don't really like when they see like fully 3D printed armies. But again, those are the most vocal ones. Maybe other people are okay with it. They just don't really care. Um, in our own community, also we have some people who don't really like it either, and that's okay. And some people who also really enjoy that as well. Just mix, it's not just like carbon copy of GW. It's like their own, like they do their own spin on it, and then they like to have create their own thing, right? They like to create their own thing. So, popular wise, I don't think it's like everyone's doing it. I'll probably maybe like 5%, maybe, like even that. Like it's not that much at all. And I don't know if anyone know, but 3D printing is just really taxing. It's just like another layer of hobby, and sometimes it doesn't really feel like a hobby. It feels like a chore. It feels like another, it's like it feels like it's work. So it's um, you know, when you get those fails, man, you rage a little bit. Like, what's going on here? So, anyways, 3D printing wise, it's not that popular. But people who do, they love it, including myself. I mean, I do it because of my work as well, and yeah, that's kind of how it goes. But 3D printing, popular? Not really. But it definitely exists because, like I said, as I mentioned before, supply issues can get the models you want. So, I mean, where are you gonna go? Like, you can't really exactly make it out of like cardboard and plaster or whatever. So, yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, and like I said, you hit the tripwire, so you mentioned it, so now we will have to bring it up. All right, so going through our question sheet here that we built before the show with questions submitted from the community. If you want to submit those, make sure you Best in Faction Patreon and Discord. We put out calls pretty frequently for community questions for these kind of interviews. So I'll do a plug in the interview, and I'm sure when we actually record the episode, we'll have more plugs. So really, just plugs all over the place. Um, I was gonna go to our closing question, and this is a personal one for me, and also asked by at NSA Wilson on Twitter. How often does the Bio Titan show up?
So the Bio Titan, I so whenever I run an event, I put out a ringer list first. So that's my ringer list. I just put out a Bio Titan on the board and like, hey guys, you better bring something. It's just in case someone drops out, and you better bring something that can kill Bio Titan, because I kind of want to push people to be have a relatively balanced list. So where it's not, you can't, so for example, knights is a great example for gatekeeping army, right? So if you got nothing that can take down a knight in one turn, you might want to rethink your army list, right? So that's kind of like how I want to kind of challenge people. So of course, one of these days, one of the events, by once one player drops out because they were sick, so Biotitan shows up on the board, and lo and behold, I get matched up with Demetrius with his AdMech chicken list, and guess what? My first turn, he goes first, and my Biotitan doesn't even make any, doesn't do anything, doesn't move, doesn't shoot, doesn't do anything. It gets blown up the battlefield, turn one, and I'm shaking, right? I'm like, huh, that just happened. This was before like all the nerfs to the chickens. So yeah, it shows up here and there, but not often. Just yeah, just to keep people on their toes a little bit. Yeah.
So I like that the Biotitan is the threat for everyone else to make sure that nobody drops. Is like if you leave, a Crusher Stampede Biotitan list shows up, and that's just worse for everybody else. All right,
Yeah.
so now that we've hit honestly what I thought was the most important question, that thing scares the hell out of me. Got to the end of the end of the interview. We've all survived, which is good. I was hoping we wouldn't have an attrition rate in an interview. Um, One thing I'd like to throw in here before we go to close. Thing about why I think Frontiers is so cool. We are currently recording on 3 different continents in 3 different time zones with people who have very different experiences with the game. Uh, Su Hun is the first person I've ever talked to who went from War Machine to 40K. Normally, it went the other way, from what I understood. So as soon as he's like, "Oh yeah, I started playing War Machine," I'm like, "I know that game. I played that. I played Kador. I remember that time." So that was very cool. As we close out here, uh, Sunan, the floor is yours. Anything you want to plug? Any groups you want to talk about before we close this up?
Yeah. I guess if anyone wants to join our community, you guys can. I guess well, Alex probably might put some link down on the below. Just follow us and join our community. We're really, yeah, we're definitely really friendly and respectful and open community. So join us. And as I mentioned before, this hobby is all about human connections and making connections and um, just meeting different people and having fun. So that's all I have to say.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. This was absolutely outstanding to do, and it was a lot of fun doing an interview. And I'll see you in a couple months.
All right. Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
Thank
no
you.
worries.
And we're back. Thank you to Su Hun again, and Alex also for his time. That was a great interview. I really, really enjoyed hearing about the Korea meta. It was just fantastic, and I can't personally wait to hopefully visit South Korea and meet a bunch of those people, or eventually, hopefully, one day at the WTC or LVO, as I alluded to. Would love to meet them there and share a beer or a beverage and have a good time, play some 40K. So Taos, I know. So this past weekend, as we're recording, there was a over the top was an event in Hamilton, New Zealand. So do you want to tell us a bit about that event and sort of give us a rundown of what it was like, or what was seen? Because I know you weren't sadly there.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so Over the Top is an event. It's been going for years, in Hamilton, like maybe longer than I've been alive. I'm not sure. I haven't been, unfortunately. But yeah, so it was a 26, I believe, player event. 5 rounds, so 2,000 points, that sort of thing. There's a bit more coverage by the Kraken cast dudes, who most of them went along. Um, yeah, so there was a smattering of sort of single factions, like there was some knights, a dude with knights, some guards, some various different chaos things, marines, and then like 5 to 6 ish each of custodes, Tau, and Harlequins, I believe, or about that sort of thing. So yeah, they were like, "This is the meta. This is where we're at. Let's go." And at the top we had Charlie Kang with Tau taking it out. He was of Tilton Salty fame, the guys that won the team event I was at. We had Michael Taylor with Custodes coming in second place, who I played last round at teams. he took some of the tech that I used against him, and that felt like a bit of a win for me. And then Hayden Courage came in third with Harlequins, so we had like the trifecta right off the bat, like taking that out. Yeah, so that's the general overview.
Yeah, so even despite the lack of potentially trying to get models and all the logistic issues of New Zealand, the 40k meta finds a way, right? Even all the way in isolated New Zealand. Although, yeah, Hayden Courage, I know he's a long-time Elder player, so he has all things elf. So I wouldn't be
Oh
surprised.
yeah.
He literally had all that stuff already.
He is a big Harlequin fan. I don't think there were not many of the lists were like full on 9 Void Weavers. So a bunch of the people that played Harlequins at the event, from my understanding, were past Harlequin enjoyers, who have then, yeah, maybe they've hurriedly assembled and airbrushed some of those Starweaver, Void Weaver boxes they had lying around. But yeah, so they've picked up what G-Dub was putting down though, for sure. I suppose should probably shout out. Is it? Oh, let's double check. I've got the right person here. But yeah, Liam Herbert came in 8th with Armiger Spam Imperial Knights. That's probably worth a mention because from memory, that was one of the higher placing off meta, so to speak, lists. So there's still some variety in there.
Oh, for sure, right? Like, I mean, logistically as well. Like, some people can't shift to the meta armies and just have to play what they've got, right? So, congrats to Liam in the 8th place position. So, and you said that was a 2K event, right? That was a traditional like 2K sort of GT, but just been a very long-standing event.
Yep. These
Yeah,
are saying 2,000 points. One
yeah.
notable thing that the Kraken guys thought was going to be to Finn's detriment was they did have a bar on site. So yeah, it may have affected placings of some individuals who are more keen to drink. But yeah,
After that first round loss, it was easy to get the second or maybe third round.
yeah.
Yeah, no, that sounds fair. It sounds like a very like so in Australia we have something called Terracon, so it's like held on like the June long weekend normally, and that's a long standing event. Like, well, I understand like 20 plus years as well. So it's good to see those long standing events still around and like people just flock to. So yeah,
I actually went to Terracon last year, and it's fantastic. It's so good. I really wanted to go again this year, but it is far away for me. It is really it's like I think it's equidistant between Adelaide and Melbourne, so it's like 3.5 hours between both of them. But like kind of from Melbourne, you kind of just go like up. You can't really see it up to the point of the triangle, right in Midland. But it's right in wine country. Actually, there's a lot of famous Australian vineyards and stuff there. So pretty interesting.
was it Narracourt, South Australia? I think it's technically
Narracourt, that's it. Yeah, that's
yeah,
it. Near
that's
Mount Gambier,
yeah.
actually. It's about an hour from Mount Gambier. So
There you go. Yeah. So, cool. So, this weekend, so we got Ben Way is TOing AUS Masters. So, for everyone that
sure.
doesn't know, AUS Masters is an invitational event for all traditionally like the big states, like the 3 or 4 of the best players for the year previously, and then the territories like the best 2 or 3 get invited to go to AUS Masters. The previous year or previous time this event run was actually the Uprising 2020, which was just before before the actual main like LVO equivalent. There was the AUS Masters, and so unfortunately like this year it wasn't able to run at the time, but we were able to get it to run this year. I don't know, Liam Hackett won it the year previously, I think, with that what's it called?
Is that
Possessed.
when he had all of the possessed, the like
Yeah, the
3 by
possessed build,
20 of them?
Yeah, it was funny because like Liam Hackett won Masters, and then and like he beat Morrisoli in the finals. I'm pretty sure. Then Morrisoli won Uprising to beat Liam Hackett. I was pretty sure is how it sort of all worked. And Matt Morrisoli had that weird like Chaos Spore and whatever build that started off like 4 CP or something like that. I think it was something weird like that. And Beast and Nurgle might have been. So yeah, so 16 player invitational event. And like the best players across Australia. So unfortunately, not everyone across Australia can make it just because code restrictions and time delay. So I know sadly there's no one from Western Australia or South Australia or Northern Territory But there are people from Victoria, ACT, New South Wales, Queensland, and I'm pretty sure also, sadly, New Zealand would normally be able to come as well, but unfortunately not able to make it this year, is my understanding. But anyways, but still, we've got 16-player invitational event. It's going to be a wide, diverse cast of players and factions allowed, and then also it's player-place terrain, which is very interesting. I don't know if you want to talk about that a bit more, Ben Way.
Sure. So we're just like having a little bit of a play around still with it. We had great feedback from the GT we ran, which was I think it was almost episode 1 when we did it on here. So we're just going to give that a go again. We have like a collective, like I'm part of Down Under 40K. We have a collective of like kind of terrain and a few TOs and bit of like a kind of community group, and a lot of the terrain is actually spread out around the state at the moment. I still have plenty of it, but it was so well received last time, and I know that there is another prestigious team tournament mid-year, VTC, which is the Victorian Team Championships, that are using it. So I don't think there's anything wrong with a bit of mixing it up a little bit. It doesn't mean it's personally permanently part of our repertoire of the tournaments I run, but we're just having a little bit of a kind of a foray with it, if you like, at the moment, just to see how it goes. Mentioning that this is actually 2021 Masters and not 2022. We're just doing it now. And elaborating on what Sam said about states not being able to make it, we did put this on in quite short notice. More to the fact to keep it consistent. We already feel like we would have missed 2 out of the last 4 years of Masters, so we just wanted to make sure we got this one in. So we put our hand up to do it. Did you want to talk about these charts, these smick little charts you've done, Sam?
Yeah, sure. So we got the lists came on live last night. So obviously myself and a bunch of others, I'm sure, quickly did the breakdowns and went through what everyone was providing. So we got an interesting spread, very interesting spread. So across to the sort of super factions, we've got 5 Xenos, 4 Eldari, 3 Forces of the Hive Mind, so Tyranids, 2 Imperium, 1 Space Marine, and 1 Chaos. So Chaos still there, despite nowhere else being played. They're still here in
Hanging on.
Australia. So and like to give I guess the sub faction breakdown. So you've got 4 Tau, 3 Tyranids, 2 Harlequins, which are pure Harlequins, and then 1 Space Wolves, 1 Necrons, 1 Imperial Suit, which is an interesting Cadian and Imperial Knight mix, which is wild. It's wild to say the least. 1 Jukari, 1 Craftworld Elder, which I will note is taking the patrol of Harlequins, and that's Chris Wright's list, which we'll go through later on. And then we've got 1 Chaos Space Marines, which is an Iron Warriors list, which is pretty interesting to say the least, with some obliterators, which is wild. And then 1 Adeptus Mechanicus list.
Yeah, well, that Iron Warriors list is definitely leaning into those decimators and the obliterators a lot in there, isn't it? Pretty sure that was the same list that did pretty well at Vic Masters, which is the Victorian. Yeah, so there was, I think they had some Chaos players do pretty well in that one. And yeah, that I do know, like, one thing that's worth noting in this, which we'll probably elaborate as we get into having a quick rundown of a few lists we picked out, is that a lot of the players tending to, because of the timing of this event, are using it to practice their teams list for ATC, Australian Team Championships, which then flows in, and evolves more into WTC Team Australia, going on in probably about 4 or 5 months time now. It's not even that long away. So I think that things like, so the person who is taking those that Knights list, for example, the Cadian one you were talking about, and I think it's got Scions in there as well. I'm pretty sure he's definitely playing on Team Australia, so he would be exploring. He'd be exploring like a couple of avenues there. And I'm pretty sure he's on Team Victoria as well for the. And obviously, Knights will be getting a new book. However, if that gets in before the cutoff of WTC is another question. The Necron one is like a classically kind of flayed one build that you're seeing pop out a lot these days. It seems to be doing quite well. Jeremy Martino's running that. He's a great player. So it'd be interesting to see how that goes. The Space Wolves in there just for Space Wolves' sake. I love that. But he's obviously had success with it. Yeah, and there's just some really cool lists. And I know Sam's pulled a couple up. He's got a couple to put on the screen that we're gonna have a quick chat about. So
Is this is the event in DUP or something?
It's
I
in
want to look at some of these
BCP.
lists. Oh, BCP. I don't know how to use
I'll
that.
send
What's that?
I'll
Actual
send you
learn.
the I'll send you the link.
Oh, cheers, Ben. I'm going to
Yeah.
check out this Knights list and the Decimator one.
And so for anyone who's interested to be best under Best Coast Games AUS Masters 2021, I'm pretty sure it should be. So that's where you can find all the lists, and the lists are live for everyone. So see some of the wacky and fun things that some Australians are taking, or maybe some of the traditional spins. So yeah, it's an interesting variety for sure. It's definitely I was definitely heading into the event. I sort of had some knew that they were going to be Tau. So obviously myself in my preparation, I was teching for Tau. And I wasn't sure about custodies. And funny enough, there's no custodies randomly. And I wasn't sure how people would adapt for Harlequins because there is obviously not as easy to get Void Weavers and stuff here. So there's still 2 or 3 players, or was it 3 players total taking some Harlequins and 2 pure Harlequins, including one of them being myself. Uh, but there's a wide variety. If you asked me before the event if I was going to see Space Wolves, Imperial Guard, or I guess Chaos, I would have said no way. There's absolutely no way. But hey, look, I'm happy to be proven wrong. So it'll be interesting to see how that all goes. So yeah, on the screen, so we've pulled out 3 lists, which we thought were pretty unique and interesting. So on the screen we've got Chris Wright's list. So Chris Wright was the CanCon winner for 2020 and is a very prominent playing in New South Wales meta, so very close to where Ben Way lives, and a very, very good player and current member of Australian World Team Championship team. So his first time there, and so definitely someone to look out for, and someone who like we sort of relate to as Brandon Grant equivalent, someone who really breaks it down in terms of efficiency and thinks of the game very logically, and has sort of been nicknamed the Terminator for what he does. So we've got an interesting sort of list. We've got so I guess it's a traveling players Harlequins patrol. So it's got a Shadow Seer with obviously Mirror Minds, which is the Mortal Wounds spell, Webway Dance with the 6-up Feel No Pain, and so in light, then we've got 3 5-man troops with a variety of shuriken pistols, kisses and embraces and caresses. They're all sort of mixed in through there. We've got the Death Jester with obviously the auto hit Warlord trait for one of them, and then the 6s explode into 3 additional hits, which is amazing, which you'll probably see in a lot of Harlequins lists. We got 2 sets of 3 Void Weavers, all with prismatic cannons, and then 1 Star Weaver. And then in the craft world selection, we have a custom craft world, which is pretty interesting. So we got Masterful Shots and Swift Strikes, which is ignore cover and always count as remaining stationary unless you fell back. So definitely something a bit different. So normally we would sort of see that Hail of Doom, which is the 6s explode and so the 6s automatically wound. Definitely something different. I'm sure Chris has thought about this very long and hard and see some play in there. We got a Seer Council with some Warlocks. We got a Baharoth. I mean, can't leave home with that Baharoth. It's just
You
amazing.
mean Flappy B, Sam?
Yes, Flappy D, indeed. And then we got the Farseer with Faithful Divergence and Guide. We got six Dire Avengers, 2 lots of 5 Howling Banshees. One of the Exarchs has a Crone Scream relic, Mirror Swords, and Nerve Shredding Shriek. We got 10 Swooping Hordes. One of them has the upgraded relic of the Phoenix Plume. We got 3 Wind Riders with Scatter Lasers, and then we got a Wave Serpent. So yeah, interesting list. Very, very MSU sort of plays all around the board, but still got those Void Weavers at the back to mess things up. So, what do you guys think?
Yeah,
I think
these
it's actually,
elves.
sorry,
They
I
do
think it's
things.
actually quite balanced. Compared to ones you'd see. And Chris, I can guarantee it have 0 fat in it, and there's a reason for everything. Knowing Chris, it's super fast. Super I love the 3 Wind Riders. I'm assuming that he'll be able to counter stationary, means he can fire and fade those potentially.
Yeah, and just like automatically advance a bunch of these bikes or
Exactly,
sleeping
and
and then just be able to shoot without penalty.
yeah, there'd be a lovely late game tool if he wants to use those, especially for that. I think it's great, and I'm really keen to see what Chris does. I know Chris has pretty much he's mainly a Craft World Eldar player and has been for like ever since I've known him. And I think he was probably the most excited person when this book was coming out. And I think it's kind of like gets to a point where you take the traveling player's attachment because it's almost like neglectful if you don't when you're playing at a certain level. And I think this common thing you'll see within most of these lists is people are taking factions because they need to stay in the running, right? Because you're against 15 other very good players. You need to make sure you're giving yourself the best shot. rules wise.
Yeah, and Chris Wright is one of those players who legitimately can win this event, so I'm sure he's definitely gunning and has thought long and hard about this list to prepare for it. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. So obviously, I mean, we'll see what he does, but I imagine those 2x3 Void Weavers and the Sweeping Hordes are these two of the last targets, and then he plays a very cagey game and like slowly just picks things off as time goes by and just plays around with you. You've got this Howling Banshees to turn off Overwatch and just kill chaff, I imagine, or use as a counterpunch tool, like cutting out that Wave Serpent. And it'll be interesting. Obviously, one interesting note was obviously the troops that just sit out in the open, so he doesn't have enough Star Weavers to keep them all safe. So it'll be interesting to see how he finds them. I guess with Light, obviously, can't re-roll a hit roll if they're greater than 12 inches or near the Shadow Sea will be 6 inches away. Also, apologies, you can re-roll a hit roll against them, but have to hitting on 4s, so potentially hitting on 5s with the -1 hit, depending on how that works out with Lightning Fast. So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. So, Taos, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm not super up there with all the new elf stuff, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, like the one thing that's looked interesting to me is that there's the units of 10, the unit of 10 hawks. I'd mostly heard of them being used as like a like they'll go out, score you engage points, then peace out, or do various different shenanigans. That's one of the things that stood out. But yeah, I don't know. Can they hop inside the Wave Serpent? Is that to like contend them, go in there, get out 3, move like extra crazy far? I don't know.
I'm not sure off the top of my head. I know for Dark Elder you couldn't take Scourges in the Raider, but maybe. I don't think so. I imagine you're going to have the 2x5 Howling Benches in there, or maybe the 5 Howling Benches and 6 Star Avengers, if it has a capacity of 12, I believe, from memory. So, but it'll be interesting. I think the Sweeping Horse with like the redeploy and the battle focus, like you just go anywhere and then just redeploy back into safety. So, should
But
be
you got a
interesting.
whole Yeah, you got a whole bunch of tricks and movement though with the craft world section, right? And then I guess weirdly the Harlequins are providing the long guns, which seems odd, but like those Void Weavers and the Death Jesters like a good chunk of shooting, right? So yeah.
Yeah. So best of luck to Chris in the event, and we're interested to see how it all plays out. The next list we have on screen, so we've got Hayden Waldock. So he's from Queensland. He's a former WCC member for Team Australia, so very good player. And I know he talked about how the previous Masters event he won was actually with Tau. So I guess going back to his beloved, and we've got quite the list here. So it's a book. So it's called Cads of the Greater Good, and it's at the 1000 Club represent. So maybe a little insight into what you may expect to see. So we've got a Balkan patrol with a Warlord Commander and Crisis Battle Suit. We've got Ethereal Marker Drones, Exemplar Moncast, Sense of Stone, Wisdom of the Guides, so gain TP. We've got 2 lots of 10 Kroot. We've got 5 battle suits with a double Plasma, Iridium, Shield Generator, Early Warning Override, 4 Crisis with 2 Plasma, Airburst, Velocity Tracker on each of them, 3 Shield Drones and a Marker Drone. We've got a Bodyguard unit, so it's got the Shaz Fray with Iridium, 2 Plasma Rifles, a Shield Generator, Stim Injectors, 3 Bodyguard, 2 Airburst, 1 Plasma each, 3 shield drones and a gun drone. Then you got 4 Kroot Hounds, obviously some pre-game movement, and then the piece of resistance, the Balkan super heavy detachment, aka the 1000 Club, and we have triple Stormbirds, baby. So all 3 Storm Sturges, and then 2 of them. The only difference is that it's got pulse blast cannons instead of pulse driver cannons. This is a list.
It's definitely a list.
He's really putting your terrain to the test here, eh, Ben?
Yeah. and the crowd go wild.
He saw
That
the
kind of
event on
list.
streams and thought, this must be what player place terrain looks like.
Oh my word.
Oh boy. That's code for player place terrain a lot of the time, right? Like we don't have enough terrain, so we'll call it player place. Then if you get shot off the table, it's your fault, not the TOs.
Yeah, that's a classic one. Well, I've got a garage literally full of terrain, like to the point where it's like there's just too much of it in there, and it's not even all in there. So
Like
like
the whole
that's-
garage is just the cities of death board.
Oh, like I've got a game table in my garage which you can't actually see because it's surrounded, and I've got more terrain like literally next to me there. So I've got a lot of terrain. It's not even all there. But yeah, no, I don't think these storms like that is a gross list. It's exactly what I expect Ducky to take. That's hilarious. 1,000 club represent. And he's even put in brackets next to the Balkans super heavy there. 1,000 club.
I'm almost like disappointed or sad that he's got like 2 units of crew. Like I'm sure he's got reasons to like theoretically play the mission or some such like that, right? But I mean, it's not even the minimum troop tax for the patrol to then just slam in the maximum crisis units. Oh,
It'll be interesting to see how it goes, and I'm excited to see what it plays out like. It's definitely a little scary to say the least. But also it's probably worth mentioning. So for the player place terrain, what it's sort of different to what you'll normally see in sort of Adepticon or ITC. The ruins and stuff we're using is all like WTC based, like the L-shaped ruins. So we've got like three big, or two, maybe one or two big obscuring pieces, a smaller obscuring piece, and then like a forest and like a set of containers each. So it's going to be pretty dense. And the way they sort of do it is your player place terrain is very like solitaire-esque in that you're only deploying in your half of the board. You can't be within 3 inches of the center line. And you have to be like a couple inches from board edges, and then you can't, I guess, block your opponent's models. So if the opponent's models can't fit between the terrain, you can like shift through it. Basically, you've
Yeah.
just got to leave the exact gap for it. So that's a very kind way of using player place terrain.
got
And
to
it's
make sure
gonna be
those
interesting
storm
to see how it
surges.
goes.
We've
Sorry,
done we've done so much work over the last few months to see, and we've actually we've previous to this tournament, we've actually had some of the best players in the area take our terrain home and play, 8 to 10. Plus, we've run about 3 RTTs and a GT, 4 RTTs and a GT on player placed. So and plus, I usually, Dale or I, or whoever it is on the night, you generally goes through and tests each table before we do it too, just to make sure we haven't kind of tied anyone in knots. So we put a lot of thought into it. It's definitely like thanks for pointing that out, Sam. 'Cause it's definitely not the same as like your FLG, or certainly not your Adepticon kind of player place terrain. Like these ruins are massive. Do you know what I mean? And the terrain suits kind of whatever army you're playing. So it's really good. And I've got they are clunky. Like we'll have some pictures hopefully for the event for the next episode. So hopefully some of the guys can have a look. But yeah, thanks.
Yeah, no worries. And then to round up the AUS Masters event, we thought, you know what, these two people decided to copycat each other, and so let's cover their list. So we've got Eric Lathuris and Simon Gojkovic. So two Australian WTC members, and then two really, really good players from Queensland. So Eric, I know, traditionally known as the Gaunt Carpet Hero. He's decided to go the polar opposite and gone Crusher Stampede. So both Eric and Simon took the same list. I know, talking to Simon, they sort of been theory crafting this list a bit, and they must have some juicy gossip and details in this, which I mean we'll try and uncover. So it's a Crusher Stampede. It's got two flying hive turrets. One of them's got the monstrous Bone Swords, monstrous Rending Claws, Adrenal Glands, Toxin Stacks, and then it's got the Synaptic Hive Blade, so can't take invulnerable saves. Murderous Size, so +1 damage, +1 strength, and -1 AP on the Bone Swords. Smite and Psychic Scream, and Paroxysm. Then the other flying hive turrets are very much a shooty, stand back, just take it all in hive turret. So it's got the -1 to wound relic, strategic adaptation to redeploy 2 units. The Swarm Leader Warlord trait for 9-inch 4 rerolls or hits. Smite, Aggressive Surge, which is D3 extra attacks, and Infused Energies, which is reroll hit rolls. And it's got a Heavy Venom Cannon and Monstrous Sliving Talons. We got Swarmlord with Smite, Catalyst, Onslaught. 2 lots of 3 Tyranny Warriors, both with dual pairs of Sliding Talons and a Synaptic Link for the Bioweapon Bond for the +1 to hit. Then we got a 9-man of Tyranny Warriors with 6 Sliding Talons, and then 3 with Sliding Talons and Venom Cannon. We got 6 Hive Guard. I mean, gotta take them while they're still good, right? And then 2 lots of 5 Raveners, both with Sliding Talons, Rending Claws, and the Death Spitter. So something pretty interesting there. Then we got the Maliceptor with the Focal Essence, so that's a 6 to wound, additional AP and reroll damage. Smite and Psychic Barrier as the psychic powers, and then 2 lots of Exocrines. So yeah, definitely something completely different. Ben, Taos?
So it's definitely out there. You go,
Yeah.
South.
I don't know. I mean, there's the stay-at-home hive turret to shoot with guns and buff the hive guard. That seems to just make sense. The go get him one, the smash, Swarmlord, all those make sense. The warriors as troops, big brick, interesting. 6 hive guard, unsurprising. I guess the thing that was interesting to me is that the double exocrine and no harpies, like that's the main things that sort of seem different to most Crusher things I've sort of seen and heard of. I don't know if you've got any insight to that, Sam, but
I think that it actually. I'm surprised that Eric took Crusher anyway. But then after seeing his list, kind of style Crusher list he's running, I'm kind of not as surprised because Eric doesn't run of the mill lists, for sure. Uh, Eric's obviously also the captain of Team Australia this year, which is worth noting. And I wouldn't be surprised. This is an ATC stuff. They're both from Queensland, like you said. So there is a lot of shooting in this list. Like between the
oh
six
yeah,
hive guard and the two exocrines, and you could even argue there's a couple of heavy venoms and venom cannons there going on as well. But there is a lot of shooting there, and there's actually there's going to be a lot of overrunning of those hive tyrants around. There's going to be a lot of jumping in, jumping out. It's going to be quite janky. The Raveners are great at mission playing. Um, Even though there's only 5 of them, I guess, I think and the Swarm Lords, just going to be doing 8th edition Swarm Lord things and flinging everyone around. So, there's, I can't wait to see it. It'll definitely be one of the lists I'll be keeping an eye on when I'm TOing if I get some time to have a little watch for.
I'm still sad there's no harpy to potato set on characters. That's the
Yeah.
funniest thing.
Oh well, it is what it is. The
Yeah,
harpy
yeah.
will come back, I'm sure. But yeah, double exocrine is interesting. Obviously, I know the original double Dumacaron build back in like a year or two ago with the that had one exocrine, but taking 2 right now is interesting. So obviously, I guess you got the +1 hit when you remain stationary, and we got that one CP strat where you can fall back and count as remaining stationary for a unit,
Yeah.
and then they still got the double shoot, which when they remain stationary and can +1 and go from there. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. And then I know obviously they've got the 2 CP strat to +1 damage, so you have that critical damage 3 if needs be. It'll be interesting to see how they play it out. So I know Eric, traditionally, my understanding is he's a very defensive player, very cage. He just keeps in his castle and then sends threats out. So I'm interested to see how it plays out. And the Raveners are going to be quick, like whether you metabolic overdrive them or you Swarm Lord yeet them up. It's going to
Or
be
both.
interesting how that goes, or both. Yeah, or both, I guess. And also, it was sort of interesting, it was pointed out, they took infused energies to the reroll hit rolls in melee, which is something you normally don't see. Because for the big, you normally just don't see. And I don't believe they took up the 4+ invuln, unless that's on the Malice Scepter. I can't 100%
I don't.
remember. Yeah, doesn't matter. Anyways, it's going to be interesting. So I'm looking forward to seeing
Synaptic
how it
barrier
plays out.
that's 4 up and all, right? The synaptic
Okay.
barrier.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Well,
So
okay,
yeah,
there we go. So, yeah, they're not that crazy then. Hey, they're not. They don't skew that too far away. So,
yeah.
taking reroll hit rolls is sort of still interesting and different. See how it plays out. I imagine it just goes on the Raveners or one of the big Tyranid warrior blocks. So, or the big Tyranid warrior block. Actually, it's non-synapse. I think doesn't matter. Anyway, whatever it is, it'll go on something, and should be interesting to see how that plays out. Yeah, and that's it for AUS Masters. Anyway, do you have any predictions for the event? Who's going to take it out?
No, I don't actually. I think what's interesting is you look at maybe the amount of events a lot of these people have played in the last let's say 3 or 4 months. I know Victoria have had Vic Masters and a couple of RTTs. I'm kind of not sure. I know Queensland have had some stuff. They've always got a few little things, but I haven't kept too in tune with what they're doing up there. New South Wales, on the other hand, have had events at left, right, and centre. So I think there is the potential for some of the New South Wales boys who've played a lot of events. I think that we'll probably feel more practiced, but it doesn't mean necessarily they'll win. I think it's probably evens the playing field out a little bit more, But in saying that, there's some of the country's best players, certainly from the eastern, east of Australia, anyway. So
Else, any predictions? Any insights?
Not especially. I'll probably have like a little bit of like underdog support for either well, I'm not sure. I'll need to check the knight and guard list, but the Iron Warriors one, the we've got a local Chaos Menace who has done bad things to people with the Iron Hands. Sorry, Iron Warriors. I know there was a guy running Triple Storm Surge who got shown the way of 3 Iron Warriors Obliterator units, and then later was seen ordering some Obliterators. So
I too am rooting for the Iron Warrior.
yeah, I think that's got to be my underdog pick for are there any Obliterators in that list? Do you know, Sam?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, that's got to be my underdog pick for things because
Isn't there 2
Yeah.
units, Sam?
Yeah, I believe it's 2 units. Yeah, it's 2 units of stomach, and then there's a couple of decimators.
The power move is you take 3 and a Dreadclaw drop pod, so you get 3 turns of them dropping down.
I thought, being from Steve Joel's country, you'd support the Space Wolves in his quest for Space Wolves to become good again. But I guess you can't support your own.
I am supporting my own. There's the even more local Sam. My mate with the chaos. I charged into the Obliterator Master of Possession thing with some Custody stuff like a couple weeks back, and I lost that combat. Sometimes they just do things, man. Trajan then went and had words with them.
Triple decimator, 2 lots of Obliterators. I appreciate.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate showing support for your own bloody host who's actually going to the event and don't even give him props to try and win it. So cool.
You're making things, mate. Look.
Sam, I'm sure you'll do fine, mate. I'm sure you'll do fine. I'll be doing matchups on 5 p.m. Friday. So if anyone who's listening to us is interested to see who Sam's getting matched up into, we'll know by Friday evening. So Australian time. So that could be pretty interesting, mate. To see what the BCP random gods have for you for their first round matchup.
Alrighty then.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Cool. So that's AUS Masters. So best of luck to everyone attending there. Looking forward to catching up with a bunch of people. So it's gonna be nice. It's obviously I was able to see a bunch of people at Uprising in January, but for example, Eric Lathuris I've never met, and I'm really excited to meet and chat to him, and a couple of others along the way. So yeah, looking forward to the event, and it should be a great time. So very much looking forward to it. We got some questions from the audience and broader show. So for anyone who wants to ask any questions, go to the Best in Tabletop Network, join the Discord, and there's a lightning round. Ask questions there, and then we'll be able to provide the host some answers, or the host will provide answers as long as they're appropriate. We're looking at you, Paul Winters. Looking at you. So the first question we have, the first cab off the rank, as we like to say, the first question we have is, what impact will the next 2 books, being Tyranids and Knights, have on all the hosts' local metas? House, I know obviously your boy John is a big bug lover, but how will Bugs and Knights go?
So bugs are gonna well, yeah, so I guess Bugs and Knights, right? Like 2 factions that 2 of the more prominent local players, myself being the Knights player, have used the success. So that should be a laugh. We'll see if we can deal with the Tau menace, because there's a lot of people with Tau locally. My run with the Megara has also got many locals buying up Knights, or has them. I've been shown various pictures, so that could be fun. We'll see what happens there. But no, I think they should have a pretty significant impact locally. And then up north, I'm sure there'll be some play in both those factions. There's people that are a fan of both.
Yeah. Benny, how will Bugs and Knights affect your meta?
So super locally, Knights won't have too much of an impact. There's not that many Knights players.
For now.
So this is like super locally, like my local gaming store, kind of the local boys I practice with in the league and stuff like that. Tyranids will shake it up. For one, I'm a Tyranid player, so that will definitely I'll be able to have a little bit of impact there, hopefully, with that. And we do have a couple of other Tyranid players as well. So I think, and that's from like all levels kind of thing. So that I think the Tunic book will definitely cause a shake-up for me locally. Now, in the wider view of the state, there's some good night players locally, so that will make a difference. Like when we're talking about GTS in Sydney and that kind of area, and Tyrannid massively will make a huge difference. We've got some good Tyrannid players in New South Wales, as it is. So giving them just more juice in a book is just going to amplify that. Good Knights players. I think like we're already feeling like we've had a lot of local good players swap to Tau. Not so many to Custos. It's been mainly to Tau locally, which I still think I wonder how the new Tyranid book is going to go into Tau. I think it's got some play, but it's definitely be harder. I think it's literally going to melt Custodes. I feel pretty confident about that. Yeah. So so there's a shame we don't have more Custode players, but we do have we do have good Custode players too as well. There's just not as many of them, you know. Like I think Custodes for someone, you know, unless you're kind of meta hopping, there has to be a certain love to be into the custards, you know. So I think so. But only got a few guys, and the hobby lag's real, right? Like custodes aren't too bad because you can get them everywhere because that box set, but you can't get anything like a lot of the guys. You know, I know there's a lot of Eldar players locally, loads of them, and they got loads of craft world stuff. They just don't have all the Harlequin stuff they need, and it's just taken them forever to want to build it out. You know, like I don't know when's Void Weavers or Sky Weavers, 'cause that's the box set they come from. They should maybe come back in stock as soon as the balance slate comes out, if it even addresses it. But you know, I know that there's a lot of them. Like, well, I can't really build on top of this. I've still got the guns from like 4 of my boxes, so I can make 4 or 5. You know what I mean? But a lot of them have got rid of it because it's literally just the guns. The only difference, right? The prism cannon or whatever it is.
The
Oh,
Void Weaver
and
has like the back turret and the front turret, and the prism cannon or the haywire.
That's
cannon.
right. They have the front turret too, don't they? So that's it. Yeah. Like so. Yeah. I mean, like we've got a couple of. There's a guy locally who plays just pure Harlequins, so he's been loving it. He waited to do a lot of his league games until the book came out. So, yeah, so as you can imagine. So he
cunning
was like,
boy.
well, I said, "Are you ready to go now?" And he said on the chat, he said, "Oh, I'm not ready to go. Like I've still got to build a lot of my stuff." I was like, "Oh God, here we go." But yeah,
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting here in Canberra. So, Rowan, one of the big prominent ACT players, so he's going to AUS Masters. He's taking bugs, and he's very keen and very piping at the bit for bugs. And I'm very much happy. I'm a massive Tyranny lover. It's my favorite army. So, very excited for the new book. And once ATC is done, I'm all aboard the hype train of Tyranid. So, and then Knights are interesting. Knights is one of those factions we sort of see, funnily enough, fair bit locally, where the guy run Armiger spam and won a bunch of RTTs with it. And so he and another dude are very keen on Knights. And obviously we saw the new Adepticon Chaos Knights, and boy, they look amazing. And so I'm sure there's one or two other guys who are interested in Chaos Knights. So interested to see how they go. They'll definitely see some love and play for sure. So will be interesting to see how it goes. You sort of touched on it a bit earlier, Benny. So one of the questions we had is hottest take of how to fix the current meta. So what's a take, Benny? How do you fix them? Are Void Weavers okay? Are they too underpriced? Are they overpriced?
I don't know. I feel like this conversation's like it's like a broken record, isn't it? Like you go onto any Discord at any time, like you could probably put money on that. There's some sort of loop of this discussion going. I don't really know. I think that from like a micro scale, like Harlequins, yeah, I think you just make the Void Weaver a little bit more expensive, like well, quite a bit more expensive, I think, and try and like, you know, I think if you take the edge off that, like what have Harlequins got really? Like, because the troops aren't like what they were when they got the White Dwarf, like that kind of step up. So I think like, you know, and you want to keep the jank in them, and you want to keep like a patrol viable. So maybe you just make the Void Weavers quite a bit more expensive. I don't know. And on a macro scale, with where they sit, I've got no idea really. I think I love the traveling players idea in the Craftworld book. They just make those. I think it's just really just the Void Weavers because those Skyweave like I'm not a huge Harlequin player. Those Skyweavers seem pretty tame. Like they don't really seem like they're too bad at all. Like well, they seem like they're really good in certain situations, but quite average in others. It's like, is that
Yeah,
accurate?
yeah. So when you refer to the Skyweavers, those being the bikes and the Starweavers being the
Yeah,
transport. So
that's right.
yeah,
That's right.
yeah. The Skyweavers they're all right. Like I know it might play. They've been fine. They haven't been amazing. I haven't loved them, but just the Voidweavers and Starweavers and the Troop Masters and Solitaire Death just are just amazing. That they're so good. So yeah, I think definitely some point increases along the way with the Voidweavers and all that jazz. And I guess they've sort of set a precedent, obviously, when they nerfed Orc Buggies to a unit of one. That potentially could happen. Wouldn't love to see that sort of happen. It sort of sucks when it happens, but maybe limit the unit size to two, maybe unit of
Get rid
two,
of the
maybe. I'm
yeah,
sure
get
there's
rid of the
some.
unit size thing, because then they can still like at least so they don't have like only one heavy support option. I feel like G double want like as silly as it is, they'll probably want each faction to at least be able to make a brigade. And
Yeah,
if you kept their one heavy support, only you can take one of them. That would be funny.
I think the unit, like dividing the units, like you said, isn't like to two is a pretty good idea. But you still got to make them more expensive because you're still going to get six out of it. I guess. But yeah, I didn't like that change they did to the orcs. They could have done that so much better. Just the whole structure of the way they changed it.
yeah, and I think
Yeah,
it's
personally, that's all.
yeah, and obviously Custodes and Tau they're a problem, and then Tyranids potentially may be a problem. So I think
Yeah,
there's going to be point adjustments along the way, and I'm sure hopefully some wording and fixes along the way would I think could be. Sorry, I know it's not the hottest take ever, but I know Trajan
no,
200 points. There we go.
yeah. I do think that Tyranids are going to be a massive problem when they come out because they're well, it's all theory craft, and I personally haven't put them on the table yet, so I can't say from my experience, but um, they've got so much going on in that book. Like I feel like every time I read it, I find something new in it. So something new that I think, wow, that's good, and something else that makes my list design a bit harder. So yeah, and I can only like knights when like knights are always like what they usually do. They usually start them off broken and they just keep nerfing them until they fit until they basically no one takes them for a bit, then they upgrade them again. Like knights don't like. No offense, Taos, but I don't
No,
really
no.
like knights in the game overall. I don't really think they work. I don't think flyers or knights work in 40k. They should just take them out. But if they're going to leave them in, they're just so hard to balance because they're monstrous. I think they're too nice models to leave out the game. They've got to find a better way to make them work. I don't know if you keep them as a standalone faction or something. I don't really
These
know.
are some real cold takes, to be honest, guys.
Yeah. Oh, come on, man. Like,
No, I
yeah.
know, but like you're right though. It's hard. I'm kind of worried for the new book, right? Because I don't want it to be. I didn't like the like Triple Crusader and the Loyal 32 plus the Rusty 17 or whatever. Like back in eighth when it was just, oh yeah, there's another three Crusaders. Because I always played pure knights and I never felt that bad about it because then at least I'm going hard skew, but it has downsides rather than being like it's functionally a hard skew and then I've got these idiots to go actually play the game. Um, but yeah, like, I don't want them to have the triple storm surge sort of effect entirely. I felt like when there was the 7 model night list that felt in an okay state. I got a bias there. But nah,
Can I ask
but
you one question? One question I thought was quite interesting.
go on.
Do you think if the Knights Codex came out, I don't know if the Knights Codex came out round about Grey Knights and Thousand Suns time, but would say it was announced in that kind of same bracket, would you be as worried about it as you are now? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'd still be
Because
worried
I
about
feel
it.
like any book that comes out now, I'm like, oh my god, it's like it's stressful. How broken is it going to be? How bad is it going to be?
I think I probably still would be worried about it because I thought they were in a really good spot. Like they had a strong build. They had rubbish internal balance, right? Because they were like of the various different options they had, there were like 3, 4 data sheets that are like actually worth considering out of a dozen or so. Because there's a bunch of forge wood options. Only 2 were good. Um, there were yeah, so I'd still be worried because they could muck it up.
Yeah,
But yeah.
it'll be interesting to see what happens. So,
As
obviously
far as
the fake data
Right.
sets weren't exactly what we hoped. So,
some of that was
definitely,
believable, some of it was funny. Yeah.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. So, I guess we'll have to wait and see, right?
Yeah.
And then last but not least,
Oh,
just
I
to
haven't even
top
got to
things
give
off
any
and
hot takes yet, Sam.
oh, okay.
Oh, I was going to start laying into Knights more because Taos was
Yeah,
here,
that's
but
pretty
I
fair.
thought I'd
No, no,
leave
no,
it.
no.
No.
The hot take. The hot take is give the traveling players an FAQ to clarify that some factions are allowed to take them. Like Guard can still have traveling player Harlequins, even though that's not how the rules work. But that'd get Guard up there, right? Just like your 3 tank commanders and then a bunch of clowns going around with them. Like if
9
Sisters of
Void
Battle
Leaders.
can take them, right? Like if they can take them with what's the name in Kygil, right? Or whoever it is, why not let Guard have some fun with it?
You
Give
know the
Chaos
fluff
Marines
though,
some.
like
Hey,
about
what?
Harlequins. There was times where they
They do
came
what they
and
want, right?
saved. Yeah, they came. They came and
Yeah,
like saved like Space Marine chapters from extinction and stuff like that. Like they they
you
they
lament. Is it
they were the
Lamenters, the ones with the checker patterns? Lamenters supplement where
yeah.
they can go with Harlequins.
So like Harlequins in the law basically were probably the closest allies, Eldari allies to the Imperium that you could get. Like they had exactly the
Yeah,
same
yeah,
values and stuff. Yeah, they were like legit because it didn't matter who they sided with. It was all about just killing chaos. So it didn't matter that they would appear in a. There's like if you read the Codex, I've only read the 8th edition one, but if you read it, there was times where they came. I can't remember what faction was, but they came and they just like he was like one of the Imperium and Space Marine factions or something was about to, like lose this really important battle, and the Harlequins came and just blitzed them all in like
right.
an hour or something like that.
I
So
must have.
you might, you could theoretically argue that from the law side.
I must have missed that section when I was just like flicking through to get to the Void Weavers as soon as possible.
Yeah,
miss
uh,
that law piece.
it's
yeah,
only
yeah,
like a leaflet thick though, isn't it? The Harlequins section.
Now, what was
It's
the?
like-
And what about like just give CSM 3 wounds each, and then like let the loyalist Space Marines suffer?
About time.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, let chaos reign.
I don't know how you fix demons. Just I don't know. Oh, make Bloodthirsters actually good. Like and the
Make
so
Khorne
they
good.
yeah. Yeah, just the demons actually like scary to come hit you with. Who else is suffering? What's another faction that's like down in the dirt?
Guard.
No, we covered that.
Oh,
Give them
Harlequins,
clowns.
sorry,
Yeah,
apologies.
yeah. So
Sisters.
He's already
Demon Runs
fixed
shoot you.
that one,
Yeah,
Sam.
fixed.
He's already fixed it. He's moving on
that
to the
was-
next one now.
What's next? Give me one more chance to have a rubbish take.
Fix. What's I'd like you to fix. How do you fix Death Guard?
Death.
Do you just give him 12-point Plague Marines and move on, or
So fix whatever the hell was going wrong with Poxwalkers being increased in points. We need other relics here to do this. Do you give them Honor the Prince? Would that do it? So they can like you really no, because you still got to do the 17-inch thing. I don't know. No,
That's
I'm
right. We'll
out
have to save it for another time. We'll have to save
Yeah.
hot meta discussion.
probably
Guess
get
we'll
someone who
listen to-
knows more about Death Guard before we
Yeah,
start trying to
yeah,
fix
like
all
that.
the books. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's-
I think they're fine. I mean, we don't have any backing or stats or information to say they're not fine. I mean, sure.
No.
So, but to hear
no,
about the
we
40K
we
meta,
can just hypothesize.
yeah,
that's
exactly.
fine.
We don't need stats and actual information. But if you want to hear about stats and information, join 40K Fight Club. They're a great show full of great people. So with Ines A. Wilson, Anthony Villanella, Nathaniel Henning, and occasionally Custody Cliff. So yeah, that's going to be it for episode 3, guys. Thank you for listening. If you have any suggestions for content or any questions, leave them down in the comment section below. Until next time, have a good one. Take care and see you next time.